have the Ayatollah of fantasy rock and roller with us today, Adam Rank. How you doing, Rank?
They look great in person, and I just can't wait to next year where we can pack it full of 25,000.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I didn't know it was Ball Guys Day. It was being ranked. I mean, how can you lose?
This is the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast.
And welcome to the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast. We are not doing a special episode today. We had something planned. We had to call an audible at the line of scrimmage. But you know what? This is Adam Rank's first time seeing Adam Rank on the intro video. How you doing, Adam?
Well, first of all, it's still not special just because it's me.
It's okay.
It's like, whatever. Like if Poe was here, it would be a big thing. But because it's just me, it's no longer a special event. But no, you're right. This is the first time that I've had the opportunity to see the intro with me in it. I'm quite flattered. And I also think this too. I don't know if Jim Nagy knows who I am, but I just imagine he hates me because smart people hate me for whatever reason, which is probably for the better. But the only smart person who likes me is Matt Money Smith. And even then, I'm not 100% convinced. But yeah, so I'm sure that I saw Jim Nagy, and I'm like, oh, that guy's gotta hate me if he knew who I was, which I'm sure he doesn't.
Matt Nagy, on the other hand, probably doesn't like you.
Oh,
right?
he loves me. I'm the Matt Nagy. I'm the guy who backs him up, like the fellow balds. Like, Matt, listen, you know that I stick up for our balds and Major too. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave you out.
Thank you.
But like I still like Matt Nagy. Like I kind of like he's like I don't know. He seems like the kind of coach that I would have responded well to. I know he comes off a little bit cocky, but I kind of like that. And I think you want your coach. I want your coach to be a little confident. Like Zach Taylor looks like I would be calling. I would not listen to a play that Zach Taylor was calling in. I'd be like, just turn off your mic, bro. Like turn off my helmet. I'm not listening to you. Wait, what does that say about me? I'm a terrible person, aren't I?
No.
I've been known to have a little bit of that oppositional defiance disorder myself, so I can't really blame you there. I'd probably be giving the old Jay Cutler treatment. I don't care, you know?
Did you just use like scientific words, Matt?
I got a word calendar just off to the side. I'm
Nice.
glad it actually fit in there. So if it's got like 3 syllables, I call that a win. So the theme for today's show is Top Gun. Everyone wants player comparisons. Yeah. Everyone wants to comp this player in the draft to this legend of the game. Well, I wanted to do a little bit different. I wanted to take a draft player and give him a comp to a Top Gun character. We've got some great characters we're going to talk about a little bit here, but let's kind of tie it in because yesterday marked the 17-year anniversary of the passing of the late and great Pat Tillman there. I know in 2016 you wrote a fantastic article kind of talking about everything that he meant to the game and what he meant to you, and I just want to kind of open it up for you to kind of say something on this matter.
Yeah, I remember that day distinctly, and it's just so funny of getting – sometimes you just know when you're getting a ton of you wake up to a ton of text messages, it's never going to be good. And it was a bunch of my friends who were working for the NFL at the time with me and just knew what Pat had I don't want to make it seem like I was best friends with him or I was like with Jake. Like I'm not Jake Plummer or anybody who knew him like really well. Like we were very friendly with each other. If I called him up and took a second to remind him who I was, he would be like, oh my God, yeah, great to hear from you. And it reminds me of the first time that I ever talked to him because the Cardinals PR guy was like, hey, because usually, you know, back in the day when you wanted to do an interview with a player, they'd be like, hey, they would sit in the PR office, they would give you 10 minutes and it would just be a thing. And I remember Paul Jensen, who was the PR guy, the PR rep for the Cardinals at the time, is like, Pat wants you to call him on his cell phone. And I'm like, bro, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't want to invade this guy's life. And he's like, no, he's totally cool with it. And so I called him and he was at home and he could not have been more gracious. I know we were on the phone for at least an hour. We were talking about all sorts of things. He really, I was kind of caught off guard by how casual he was, because I had it in my mind that he was this like intense Henry Rollins type of deal where I'm like, oh, this is gonna. I was almost a little apprehensive because as much as I liked him as a player to ASU and with the Cardinals during his first couple of years, I was a little bit concerned. But he could not have been more down to earth, more like talking to one of your buddies. And he was great. And this is how long ago it was. He said something. He started asking me questions like, "Hey, where'd you go to school?" And I was like, "I go to Cal State Fullerton." And he's like, "Oh, do you know C.J. Ankrum, who was the first baseman of Cal State Fullerton at the time?" I said, "Yeah, I did. Yeah, I know him. Yeah, he's cool." And he goes, "Oh, he's like, that's our degree." And I'm like, oh, "Okay, I'm sorry. What does that mean?" And he's like, "Have you never heard of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon?" And I'm like, "No, what is it?" This is how long ago it was. And he goes, "Are you near a computer?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Pull up this website and whatever." And we sat there and he was teaching me the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And we're just going through and we'd throw out names like, you'd be like Richard Grieco. Like, let's try a hard one. Let's obscure or something like that. And wonderful. That's a wonderful person. And so I always kept his number with me, and he was super cool. And the following year, I had reached out to him, I said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. Do you mind?" He's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Totally cool." So every off season, we would catch up like once a year. And he, again, like every time he was always inquisitive and really nice. And so I do remember, if this story is going on too long, I apologize. I just wanted to share this because I do remember.
Yeah, take your time.
It was so cool because I remember when he decided to go into the Army, and I had reached out to him beforehand, and I'm like, "Hey," I go, because he had always done this thing. He'd always done this thing, like every off season, he always did something cool or unusual. And I'm like, "What?" Because like the first year he ran a marathon, and I'm like, "Why did you run a marathon for whatever reason?" And he's like, "Dude," this is like the exact quote. He was like, "Dude, I'm a football player. I don't have shit to do in the off season." And I'm like, I always love that. So he would always say stuff like that, and he always said, I'll never forget this, is the first time I ever talked to him. I was asking him some questions about some of the things at Arizona State. I'm like, "Hey," because they were always like, "Hey, I heard you walked into the coach's office and said like, 'Hey, I'm not red shirting. I got stuff to do.'" And he was like, "This stuff gets blown out of proportion like all the time." He's like, "They asked me, 'Do you want to play or redshirt?' And I said, 'I want to play because I like playing football.'" And then they made it into this thing. So we were going through some of that stuff. And then one time I must have hit on something. Well, I remember, I'm not going to say what it was. I remember what I specifically asked him, and he got real quiet, and he's like, "Okay, you can't put this in your deal, but," and then he gave me the answer. And that stupid phrase just always stuck with me. Like, "You can't put this in your deal." Like the article I was working on, "You can't put this in your deal." And it's just stuck with me. 17, 20 years. Geez, it's been a long time since I've known him. It always sticks with me. If you ever hear me throw that out, that is something that I took from Pat. And when he went to the Army, I remember my bosses wanted me to, like, "Can you reach out to him?" And I'm like, "He said like he doesn't want to do any media or anything like that. There's no way." And they were really pressuring me. So I will tell you, I never did. I never called him for a work thing. I do regret not calling him and being like, "Hey, like, I know you're going to the Army. Good luck. We'll talk to you soon." I wish I would have done that, but I defied my bosses. I'm like, "You're not going to, no, I'm not doing this." I wanted to respect his wishes. So, just a great guy. And I will tell this too. I'm sorry to make this long story even longer. When he was still at the Cardinals, and a Cal State Fullerton guy, his brother Kevin played baseball, and they were playing the Sun Devils. This is when Kevin played for ASU, and he comes out and he's warming up like just outside of the dugout, getting ready, and he's got his name on the back of his jersey. And obviously Tillman is not a common last name, obviously, and it's got an ASU connection. So we're heckling the S out of these Sun Devils because that was our biggest rival. Like, we were huge rivals with the ASU Sun Devils, and we hated them. And so I yelled down, I'm like, "Hey, are you Pat's brother?" And he didn't look back, but Kevin shook his head. I could see him shaking his head. And I'm just like, okay, you're cool. And that was it. And I'm like, I was like, guys, like nobody heckle this guy. And I looked it up on Kevin Tillman, of course. I said, nobody heckle this guy. So he was the only Sun Devil. Like this was a team that had like Dustin Pedroia and all these guys, and we were merciless on them. Kevin Tillman got a free pass. Eventually he came and played at Cal Poly, which was in our conference. Also got a free pass at that time too. So sorry for taking up so much of your time with that.
No,
But
it's
thank you
awesome.
for
That's
let me.
great.
I have more, but yeah, it's he was an incredible person.
I love that because you mentioned that to make a long story longer. We said that in the last show too, and I've used that like 3 times since then. So I'm
Good.
stealing that. So that's
Please,
in my
please.
deal now.
Yeah, that's your deal.
Nice.
You're gonna make me cry. I'm stopping.
No, I felt
So-
it too. I
Let's
was
make
like,
jokes.
like, oh.
So anyone who's tuning in knows that Adam Rank was graciously joined us earlier in our Behind the Grind series, which if you want to look back on the YouTube channel, there's a bunch of fantastic interviews with some of the greats of our industry here. So make sure to check that out. It's a fantastic series we got going on. A couple little things, because Adam knows that we like to touch a little bit on football before we get carried away.
Right.
I want to kind of combine the two here. Your thoughts on the new numbers and some of these new uniforms, because I know you're a big fan of the Bengals and the Bears thrown together some all whites.
Yeah. Where do we go with this? Because number one, the uniform numbers, I am shocked that Tom Brady was so upset about this. Like what a curmudgeon. Like there's so many things. Like I'm actually surprised of the people who are against this, because typically, and I work for the NFL, so I'm allowed to say this, is we always seem like the uncool dad. Like who's always pulling up like, nope, stop the fun, everybody.
Right.
You can't do that. Oh, I'm sorry, Leonard Fournette. You want to wear 7? Can't do it. You wear number 27. So I feel like we're the uncool dad, and now we're doing something cool, and everybody's turning on us. It's like we're the uncool dad. We show up, and we're like, hey, everybody, you know what? We're taking you out for pizza. And all the kids are like, no, dude, we don't even like pizza anymore. We're vegan. You're like, I can't win. I can't win with you. It's impossible. So I dig it, and I hope that we start to see some of the running backs with the single digits. I know the number 5 has been a cool number for running backs over the last number of years. LaDainian Tomlinson inspired Reggie Bush, who inspired Christian McCaffrey. I'm sure there were some other guys that I'm missing along the way. So I would love to see that. I like to see a wide receiver wearing number 8 or something, or number 3. I think it looks cool.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Juju's thinking about changing to 9, his USC number.
Yes. Buy up that inventory. I will buy your new jersey to help make it up for you. So I dig that. I love what the Bengals did. Like sometimes, you don't have to totally rebrand your whole thing. You can just go out there and make a couple of tweaks. The Bengals' old uniforms were doing a little too much. Like the side panel needed to go. So take a couple stripes off. You got a cool concept. I'm a huge fan of the helmets too. So I'm all about it. I love the Bengals uniforms, and I don't care who knows. Although I do, I like a nice all white uniform. I think it always looks really clean. But I always wish the Bears wore their all whites, because with the navy helmet and you got all white and you have dark shoes, that looks great. Like I spend too much time on Madden, like creating right? Like if they, I think I used to purchase Madden just to create the uniforms. And back when I was a little bit younger, I would always pick up a copy of Madden. I would take over the St. Louis football team, and I would move them to Las Vegas. I was the forerunner. I was the one who thought of this first. Although I would have put mine down. Although it's in a perfect spot right now. Where the Raiders have it is amazing. Downtown also would have been nice, but I always moved them to Las Vegas and renamed them the Rat Pack, which is like, I don't know, kids
Sammy
today.
Davis and those guys.
I know Josh and
Sinatra.
Triple Play, the guys who are on this thing are going to be like, I've never heard of the Rat Pack. Let me Google it. They were very cool back in the day. My parents loved them. So I would spend all this time like making up the uniform. Like, oh, like what color scheme would I use? Like, oh, should I use orange? That was Frank Sinatra's favorite color. I think about this stuff way too much. I'm way too into it. I'm way too into jersey numbers. I'm way too into the jerseys. I would always create a player My grandmother had a cool name. Her name was Jessie Bell. I'm like, oh, that just sounds like a good running back. So I'd always create Jessie Bell and, rocking the number 7, like Toby Gerhart. And I would always be pissed when I would be in like a recruiting battle from USC. And I'm like, how am I having to recruit the player that I created? And be upset about that. That was the NCAA game. But sorry.
What would the Rat Pack logo look like? Would you rock a rat on your helmet? Like what's that?
No. There were some different variations. Sometimes I would go with a V for Vegas.
Okay.
There was I'm trying to think of the logos that they would give you. Sometimes they would have like a gunslinger.
Oh
like
yeah.
kind of I think the gunslinger was always the one I sort of like an old Western gunslinger type of thing. Because I think if you although the NFL now has official casino partners and everything like that, that maybe it's not as taboo as it used to be. But like a pair of dice would be kind of cool too. Like
There you
rolling
go.
a 7.
Yeah.
I think that would look pretty dope. Or you know what? Actually, oh my God, I forgot. I had somebody, I gotta find this. I had somebody make this up. It was a martini glass. That's what it was. I had somebody, it's not in the game, but I had one of our graphic designers, because this is the kind of stuff I make my coworkers do. I'm like, can you design me a logo that's a martini glass? And instead of like an olive on a toothpick, it was a football on a toothpick. It actually looked really dope. I'm sure it's somewhere. I gotta find it. It was one of my favorite things. Yeah, because I was doing a lot of work for EA, and they're like, you're way too invested in the wrong things.
Very XFL-ish.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. Yeah, I wish there was I know like the Sinatra family owns it or something like that, like owns the name Rat Pack, but if I was a Arena League team or something, because they did have an Arena League team.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would just back up like, how much is it going to cost? Because we're going to make it up in merchandise sales anyways. Like, just what do we do? Like, what do I need to do to get the name Rat Pack to use for our team? I think if the Raiders are like one of the few teams that I would have suggested, because like if you would have, I'm trying to think like if who would move, like if the not that the Titans are moving, but like if the Titans had moved to Vegas, been like, then you rebrand as the Rat Pack. The Raiders are one of the few where you're like, that kind of fits.
Can't touch it.
Yeah. Although I think that I know they had the black hole, but I would love it. And I will throw this out and let the Raider fans know that there should be a section of that stadium. And we haven't had fans there yet, which is so weird to think about. I want a section of that stadium to be known as the Rat Pack.
Yeah.
And have guys that dress up in suits. I'm
That'd be
spitballing
so
this
dope.
right now.
It
Viper,
sounds so sick.
cut this out. Like, clip this and let's tweet it out. Yes, there has to, because like the Raider fans always dress up in costumes and stuff. There should be a group of guys in suits dressed up and known as the Rat Pack. I'm gonna make it happen.
Hey,
I might be.
sick. Yeah, I'm
gonna do it. I'm gonna start it. I'm gonna go out to Las Vegas and do that myself.
Nice.
I'll make the trip down. I'll grab I'll coat my my aunt's season tickets, and I'll be down there with you. Let's do this.
Yeah, my sister's a huge Raiders fan. She was married to a Chiefs fan, because like our family team is the Bears. And she's rooting for the Raiders, and I'm the obtuse idiot who never put it together. I'm like, why do you like the Raiders so much? Like this doesn't not like our household hated the Raiders. My dad had some appreciation for the Raiders as an AFC team. He obviously didn't care. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, you were married to a Chiefs fan. I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I get the terrible reason why you support the Raiders. But I'm gonna get her on board with this Rat Pack idea. She could be the den mother.
That's so sick. Go ahead, Tara.
All right. So don't hate me. I am a Packers fan. So I'm gonna take it.
Way to start that off right there. Don't hate me, but
Don't hate me.
Don't hate me. I knew it was going to be good. I'm like, she's a Packers fan.
Yeah. So I'm going to take it to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And, we're very excited for obviously very excited for his potential career as the next great Jeopardy host.
Right.
So I've got to ask you, who else would make a great Jeopardy host?
He should start it this season. He should retire from the game. He was so good. He was so good. Actually, I didn't care for him as the host of Jeopardy. No, I'm joking. I thought he was pretty good. I think like he has a nice dry wit about him that he kind of, I thought like the whole thing with the field goal, he played that off perfectly. Like he's got some chops. I think that obviously once he's done with his career, he's going to go on and do some nice things behind the camera. Obviously it's off-putting too sometimes. When you watch the finale of The Office, you're like, oh my gosh, every time I forget that he's in this. I'm like, oh, and it ruins it for me. No, he's good in that as well. So, and that's the thing that's the most frustrating. It's like, I want him to be bad at it because I want to make fun of him for it, but I can't. Like, I can't as a human being. Like, I don't know. It's fun to like spin the yarns of like, this guy always loses in the AFC or in the NFC championship game. He's got as many NFC championships as Rex Grossman. Like, it's always fun to do that, because that's always based in some semblance of reality. But I can't sit here and be like, he was terrible as the host of Jeopardy, because he wasn't, and he was really good. And he's really, you know, when you look at some of the people who've done it after him, like Anderson Cooper was the host of a show called The Mole way back in the day. Like it was like, I think opposite Survivor when that show was starting. He obviously does a nightly TV show on CNN. So he's very comfortable in front of the camera. And for Rodgers, who doesn't have that kind of stuff, who doesn't have that kind of opportunity to be in front of the camera as much as somebody like Anderson Cooper, it was really impressive how he was able to do that. And James Coe and I talked about this because I mentioned Jay Cutler. Like, I go, Jay Cutler would be pretty good. And he was like, no way. Like, he's terrible. And I'm like, if you didn't see Total Cavalieri, or Very Cavalieri, whatever the show was, like, he was the star of that show. Like, they had to redo the show because he was so good at it. Like, it was one of the things that was sort of, again, like, it's off-putting because people hate Cutler, to be like, he was kind of charming. Like, my wife now owns a Cutler jersey just because of that television show. The kids are allowed to wear their Cutler jerseys because of that television show. And of course, you have some guys like Pat McAfee would be fantastic at it. Although, I think for Jeopardy, I think what Pat does, and Pat's amazing, I think him and I have the same type of energy where it's like, we wouldn't work for Jeopardy. Like, I don't think that we're the kind of, it's a different game show. Like, we would have to figure out something else for us to do, because Jeopardy needs more of the low-key, dry, that Cutler or Aaron Rodgers could give you. So that's the way I would go. I think Belichick. I think also Belichick.
That's too dry.
Belichick would be perfect. Like, no, that's wrong. Like, that's correct. Anybody else? No, the answer
In the
was,
show abruptly.
the show was what we were looking for was Spain. Okay, you're on the board. You know, like that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like, it would be pretty good. I'd love to see him get a chance. I think The Rock. I think anytime I could wedge in The Rock for anything, I think that would be pretty good. The Rock, you know, because, you know, what he did in San Andreas was so amazing that he's now shown that he can do anything. By the way, I don't think people give enough credit to the movie San Andreas, if I may stump for that for a moment. And I don't know. That's my thing. There it is. Hey! Somebody was waiting for that. Our boys at Triple Play. Okay, there it goes. So they knew. Like, am I that predictable? I'm coming out and playing. Listen, I'm sorry. If you go to see Pearl Jam, they're going to play a live. So I'm sorry. If I'm going to come out here, I'm going to hit all my hits.
All the greatest hits.
All the good ones. I'll get into some new stuff at some point, but, you know, I don't want everybody to run to the concession stand, because that's every band. Like, hey, right now we want to play a song from our new album. You're like, okay, guys, we'll see you later. We'll take it easy. What about Owen? What about Will?
Back on track, man.
Okay, sorry.
You're taking us to
that
a
question.
rabbit hole.
I was asked the question: who would be good hosting Jeopardy? That's not on me. What about Anna Kendrick?
I thought we were talking more like football players who would make it.
Oh,
Come
I'm
on.
sorry. You know who I want to see on Jeopardy though? I want to see as a contestant. I want to see Richard Sherman.
Yes.
Richard Sherman, yes.
I think he would be great as a host,
as
a contestant. I think he would be really good. Who are the good? Kelsey. See, some of these guys are the energy's a little much. I think Travis Kelce is a lot of fun, but the energy is a little much. George Kittle's a lot of fun. The energy is a little much. I think you got to have like the low key cool, and that's what you're looking for. Oh, you know what? You know who's amazing is Calais Campbell. But Calais Campbell might be too tall to be the host of it because that would be too intimidating. Like it's already off-putting being on a quiz show. And Calais is like 6'7" and is like just a monster of a man.
giant.
And that voice, that deep voice. It's like, all right,
Oh, you know what?
NFL players for 200.
If I could stump for one of my friends, though, I would say MJD. That's what we should be pushing for. I think MJD would be pretty good because MJD is so confident in everything that he says that he would give that vibe of like he knew the answer. Like that's the kind of thing that's the most annoying about that is that Trebek always gave you the like you're an idiot for not knowing this kind of vibe, which is cool, which is like one of the most compelling parts of that show. MJD is really good about that too. And I think that he would be, you know what, now that I've said that, oh, my guy Akbar. Akbar would be good. Now I'm just going through I'm just naming my friends now.
Just say everyone. Everyone is good for
Here's my friends. Here are my friends who I want to see do Jeopardy.
Let's talk about the Bears a little bit. They're one of the teams going into the draft that pretty much needs everything. So what are your expectations for the Bears going
What
into
does
the
that
draft?
mean? We don't need everything.
Yeah.
We've got we're one of the few teams in the NFL that can look at their roster and say, we have a Super Bowl MVP quarterback and 3 Pro Bowlers. There's not a lot of teams that can say that. The Bears are one of them. So I think we're doing okay.
Spoken like a true Bears fan.
Of course, like I'll find any sort of thing to cling to because like we're good enough to just be fine. We're good enough to be like uninspiring, but not offensive enough to be bad. Like it's just so frustrating. Like I guess we did. You know, it wasn't too long ago that we had the 3rd overall selection. Nailed that pick.
Nailed it.
Oh.
But did you just figure out who it was? Yeah, you're like, hey, oh, Chris.
Oh.
I gotcha. That was so sweet. The sincerity.
I gotta stand up for my ACC homies. I gotta stand up for them.
But in any event, this is a team that has a couple of needs. One of them they shouldn't need because they shouldn't have traded Kyle Fuller, but whatever, or released him, I should say. But you look at the draft right now and sitting at 20, the worst thing the Bears could do would be to stay at 20. It feels like you either have to move up if Justin Fields falls for some reason, moving up to 4 or 7 or 8 or something like that to grab him makes a lot of sense. And then otherwise, if you're missing out on that quarterback, the positions of need are like corner, receiver, tackle, which are going to be available in the 2nd round. So it makes sense to move down yourself, which is always in a perfect world. Cause like, it's always fun to talk about like, yeah, you should just move down. But like to move down, you need to have a dance partner who wants to go up for somebody. And I don't know that there's necessarily somebody at pick 20 that's going to cause a rush of somebody to come up and be like, oh, I got to move up and get this person. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. If they do stay at 20, I think if Darisaw falls there, you could draft him. There's going to be a couple of the cornerbacks. I think Greg Newsome could end up being there. The kid who was injured out of Virginia Tech, was it Dansby?
Fairly.
Fairly.
Dansby.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, you're right. But I think like there's going to be some options there, offensive lineman or whatever. So I think that as long as Ryan Pace, hits the 1st round pick for a change, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. Like Ryan Pace, like this is the thing about Ryan Pace. Like we all have friends that if we go out to, back when we could go out to taverns, but you go out and your friend is sitting there and he's drinking, Corona premieres all night. And he's just like level, like, okay, he's a lot of fun, telling some funny stories, like whatever. Like that's Ryan Pace in rounds 2 through 7. Like even keel, knows what he's doing, making some jokes. Ryan Pace in the 1st round is like a dude who just got a fake ID, doesn't know how to behave in a bar, starts ordering fireball shots, wasted within 20 minutes, and you're like, you don't know what you're doing. We need less of that, Ryan Pace. So maybe if he could just escape the first round altogether and get multiple second round picks or something, I think that might be the best recipe for the Bears, because I think that they're good enough to be competitive. And last year, I think the problem with Mitch was he's never going to win you any games. And you can say what you will about Andy Dalton. He has more fourth quarter rallies than Aaron Rodgers, which again is me taking a stat that's somewhat meaningless, because Andy Dalton played for some miserable teams that had to always play from behind, whereas Rodgers and the Packers are always playing from ahead. I understand how that works, but Andy Dalton does have the ability to rally a team. And I think if the defense, under the new defensive coordinator who's going back to the Fangio system, if the defense is good, I think the Bears have an opportunity to be a 9 or 10 win team, which would probably upset a lot of Bear fans, because that means another year of Matt Nagy. But I think he's a good coach, so I'm not going to be upset about it.
Yeah, I just did a 7-round mock draft, which, by the way, I probably will never do that again. And we know that the Bears were interested in Russell Wilson in the offseason and willing to trade all these first-round picks to move up. So it wouldn't surprise me if they put some sort of package to move up for Fields or a Lance, or see how that kind of plays. I think teams like Detroit and Carolina are in prime positions for that kind of a move.
Yeah.
If everything stayed the same, I kind of had Jalen Waddle dropping to them.
What?
That position. Yeah, that's just kind of the way the board fell.
You know
and
what?
then I kind of came back in the second. I got him that Kalen Mond, because I really think Mond is being underrated right now.
Same.
Is he a second round pick? Probably not, but quarterbacks move up quite a bit in these drafts. And you've got Andy Dalton already in place, who I don't hate. I think Dalton is serviceable for a year or two if you're waiting for Kellen Mond to come around. So
he's Andy Dalton. That's a perfect description of, like, I don't hate him. You know, he's like, it's like, no, but it's like Taco Bell. It's like when you got it, when things are going, you know, however your day just unfolds, and you got to go to Taco Bell. Like, you probably didn't wake up that morning and say, you know what, I can't wait to have Taco Bell for dinner. Maybe you did. Maybe you're 17. I don't know. I know that people like it, and I'm not besmirching Taco Bell by any stretch of the imagination, but it's usually not your first option. It's usually like, oh, I don't know what to eat, but hey, I know that Taco Bell's going to be fine. I'll go get Doritos, tacos.
It's a safe comfort food. It's a safe comfort food.
It's fine. And
the whole thing, safe.
And the thing with Dalton too is that I wouldn't have been upset about it. Number one, if they would have just signed him last year when they brought in Bill Lazor, that would have been fine, instead of trading a 4th rounder for Nick Foles. It also, if we were never involved in discussions of Russell Wilson and got me excited or whatever, like I never would have thought that we were in the mix ever for Russell Wilson till he brought it up. And now it's rude. It's kind of like, listen, I'm a married person, okay? I know that I'll never have a shot with Gal Gadot. But if she somehow goes on social media and says, the 4 people, if I ever leave my husband, of the 4 people I would ever leave him for, Adam Rank is one of them. Well, then I would, like, my life would change. I would have to tell my wife, and, like, no disrespect to her. We've had this conversation already. No disrespect. No. No disrespect to her. But I said, if Gal Gadot is in the market, you're out. Like, just take your, I'll give you, like, listen, I'll take care of the kids, but you got to move out. And then you sit there, and then if Gal Gadot's like, no, I'm going to stay with my husband, I don't know how I walk that back now. And now I have to go find something else, and I'm going to be eating dinner at Taco Bell instead of doing anything else. Instead of having a wife who's now cooking for me, I have to go to Taco Bell, which is Andy Dalton. So now it all comes full circle. You have
a beautiful mind. I have to tell you that.
I'm a terrible person. No, I'm an awful person.
How did it just happen right now? He just played out a whole relationship. Like, wow.
I'm legitimately an awful person. This is what happened.
I really don't even know how to segue into this next part. It's like going from Hot Shots Part 2 to Top Gun. I don't know where to go on this one.
You want me to leave?
I'm crying.
I feel like Tara really hates me, by the way. I'm a Bears fan, and I'm saying terrible things. And
Holy moly.
Oh my gosh.
I could
I don't
never.
know why do I do this to myself? This is why smart people hate me too, by the way, because I'm a terrible person.
Ugh.
Well, I'm definitely not smart, but I definitely love you, Adam. So,
Oh, thank you.
moving
That's
this
why we
thing
get
on.
along. No, I'm just
Absolutely.
kidding. I'm teasing.
Absolutely. I'll never accuse myself of being an intellect. But moving into kind of some pop culture comps now.
Yeah.
Hot Shots version. We're going to go through this whole. Major's going to kick us off with the first one here, which I have a problem with him, but we'll kind of explain exactly what we're looking for and give us that comparison of that rookie coming in this draft who compares to one of these pilots in Top Gun. I wish I had the music to cue up right now. Because, by the way, one of the greatest soundtracks ever.
Oh, sorry.
All right, so let's get it started. Let's start with Wolfman, Harry Root.
Wolfman. You know what's funny is of these prospects, I was trying to think of it. If I'm walking it back, because I kind of had the first couple. Wolfman is kind of he's kind of steady. Is he kind of the Mac Jones of this? What do we have?
He could be. So here's my problem with the Wolfman. He's wearing a dang cowboy hat, and there's a pilot called Cowboy. This is where my problem is. How does this work? You're wearing a cowboy hat, but you don't get the nickname Cowboy? How does this work out?
That is kind of off-putting, and I wonder if that's an actor's choice. Like if they were sitting there and he was like, the guy whoever the actor was who was playing Wolfman was like really put out because he didn't get to be Cowboy. And he's like, you know what? I'll show them. I'm gonna wear the hat. And the actor playing Cowboy is like, hey bro, can I have that hat? He's like, no, I'm wearing it. He's like, but I'm Cowboy. He's like, I don't care. This is my choice. And in this world, Wolfman wears a cowboy hat. And I think, that could be definitely, but that is kind of, but that's it feels like a Mac Jones thing though. Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
No, because maybe in this case, Justin Fields is Cowboy and Mac Jones is like, no, I got to be Wolfman. Maybe I get to be the number 3 overall pick.
Exactly. I was going to good job.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect.
See, this is the hard-hitting analysis we're here for today.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So what about Merlin? Somebody that maybe has a little bit of panic in him.
Merlin, yeah. He's, you know what? I hate to put this on anybody. Merlin, it's always going to be, it's got to be like Trey Lance, right? Or no. Merlin, no. Isn't Merlin going to end up being Zach Wilson? Like that's like, we think he's the stuff, like he's the guy, he's got all the tools, like he's got everything that'll make him, the number one person. And then you get him out there, you put him in the bright lights of New York City, and all of a sudden things change. It's one thing if you're sitting there and you're playing football in Provo and you got to go up to Logan and play the Utah State Aggies, or you're going to Boise, although Boise's a tough place. You're going to Reno, play the Wolfpack. It's a lot different when you're going into New England facing off against Bill Belichick. So I could see, Bill Belichick is going to turn him into Merlin. Be like, sorry. And his hair, and because he's got that look too. Like I know he looks like Iceman, but no, he's the Merlin of, oh my gosh. Yes.
That's good. That's really good.
So kind of keeping with this breaking down theme, we have Cougar. We have Bill Cortell as Cougar here. And if you remember Cougar, he's the one who literally had the breakdown where Maverick had to pull him out of the plane because he couldn't go up. Merlin was Tim Robbins' character.
Oh, I got him backwards. Sorry.
All right, so we're going to give Zach Wilson's
Cougar. Sorry. Okay,
and then Merlin's kind of the guy that's like, it's Tim Robbins. And this was Tim Robbins before he was Tim Robbins.
Yeah.
Before he was actually a big name guy. So who's that big name guy that we don't know yet, that is a small name right now, but is going to be a big time player down the road?
Well, I apologize to everybody who's never heard of the movie Top Gun, who will now in retrospect be like, how did Rank get that? Because I was thinking am I doing this right? Yeah. So just pretend everything I just said about Zach Wilson, he's Cougar. Merlin's got to be the guy, because Merlin isn't a pilot, because he replaces Goose. And he's the guy who's kind of like when Maverick tells him, like,
Sundown replaces Goose.
Wait a minute. No.
Yeah.
Sundown's a pilot, right?
Sundown's the one who replaces Goose after Goose dies. So he can
No.
never live up to the expectation.
Have I seen this movie? What is happening with
I
me?
feel the same way right now.
Wait, I thought Merlin's in the plane going like, "You're gonna do what?" Doesn't Merlin say you're gonna? Because doesn't Maverick tell him I'm gonna hit the brakes and he's gonna fly right by, and he goes, "You're gonna do what?" And then they hits the brakes, it flies right by. Yeah, when they get out of the plane, Merlin's behind Maverick, and then Maverick goes and hugs the guy who is in Pacific Blue, and then eventually he runs into Val Kilmer, and he's like, "You're still dangerous," and they hug. Am I wrong? Now I gotta
have
go
to
watch
it
Top Gun.
again. Right. I
This
have
is
to go watch it
this is a
again.
really good synopsis. I'm learning
Listen,
a lot.
I'm gonna Google this. And
Google.
Somebody Google it. Where's Josh? Bobby Gilchrist. Go
Bobby's
look
got
this
to be
up.
around.
He's in here. Like, somebody help us out with this, because now I'm so confused. I thought I was a Top Gun aficionado. Like, this is one of my things. Although I will tell you this. Can I tell you, a couple of years ago, I was in Las Vegas. I'm sorry. This is somewhat related. I'm in Las Vegas, and there's a Top Gun slot machine, which was cool. And the three faces on it are Kelly McGillis, Anthony Edwards, and it might have been Tim Robbins. I'm like, okay, hold on. Who made this game and then didn't have Tom Cruise on it? Like,
Right.
how did the pitch meeting go? Like, we got a great idea for a slot machine. It's based on a movie that came out 25 years ago. You're like, okay, cool. Yeah, sign us up. What's the movie? Like Top Gun. Like, oh, cool. Like, so you got Tom Cruise on board. Like, no, listen, let me tell you, like, we're gonna have flybys, we're gonna have Ghost Rider, we're gonna like, okay, cool. Like, but Tom Cruise is going to be on this game. Like, no, you don't understand. We're gonna have like jet engines, and you're gonna be in a real cockpit. And you're like, okay, but do you at least have Val Kilmer, the guy who was actually Top Gun, who wins the competition? None of that was it. How did this game get approved? I want to know. And I hope this filibuster was long enough for somebody to look up to see that Tim Robbins was sitting behind. Because I think the first time Maverick goes up, I think when it's at the end of, when Maverick goes up to finish his Top Gun piloting, I think that Sundown is the guy who replaces Goose. And
The first
Sundown,
guy, and then Merlin
Sundown,
second.
Sundown kind of chases them down, like, what the hell's wrong with you? And then I think when they get out to the Indian Ocean, that's when Merlin shows up and is the guy behind him. I don't even know what that specification is called. The Navigator? I don't know.
RIO.
Okay, excuse me. Thankfully, my dad was in the Navy and is going to be super proud that I don't know any of this. I'm sorry. I also have to ask this, like, okay, you have a conflict out here in the Indian Ocean. Why are you sending like the current cast up top? What about the guys who graduated last year? Like, where are they? Can we not scramble them? Like, what happened?
Let's throw the rookies out here. We haven't even
That's
gone
good.
to the draft yet, but we're just going to throw them out there.
Hey, I know that you have no experience, but we need you to go out there and prevent World War III. Think you can do that? Okay, good. These Russian pilots have probably been flying these planes for 20 years,
God.
but hey, go out and see if you can fight them off. Thank you.
Let's
right, so-
move on with the game. Let's move to I'm gonna give you Slider, the Iceman's hype man. Who would that be coming in?
Slider. Are we going with the quarterbacks? Are these all the quarterbacks? Or are we doing anybody who's...
You can anyone you want, man. Lineman, whatever.
Like I would compare this to maybe last year. I don't have a rookie comparison yet, but Mark Ingram to Lamar Jackson. You know, Mark
Yeah.
Ingram was big trust. You know, he was the hype man for Lamar Jackson. Who's that rookie? Who's going to hype everyone up?
Who is the hype man? I feel like, is it going to be... I really
think
wish
Lance been doing a lot of tweeting about other people, like pro days and all that good stuff. So maybe Trey Lance, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, because Trey Lance has already got to show that, like, he's a good teammate and letting everybody
Right.
know, like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm ready to do this and everything. I do like Slider because he was, I don't think that people appreciated his volleyball skills. Yeah, you know what? Who's the best volleyball player in the draft? That's who I would go with. But I like the Trey Lance comp. He has been pretty cool. I've noticed that. I don't know if if the new coach of the Eagles has been paying attention to social media, I mean, if rock, paper, scissors is a thing that is used to determine, and by the way, my daughter, my 5-year-old is, I don't want to say she's a sociopath, but every time we play rock, paper, scissors, she always goes scissors. And I'm like, who throws scissors? That makes no sense. And I'm berating a 5-year-old. And I'm like, what do you do? Who throws scissors? Like everybody throws rock because they want to show power. So whenever you Rochambeau somebody, rock, paper, scissors, everybody, 79% of the time, people throw rock because they want to show their authority. Nobody just throws scissors. Like, that's stupid. And I'm like, why do you do that? But because I know this tendency, every time I always throw paper. My daughter has already figured me out. I'm being outsmarted by a 5-year-old daily because she's already figured out my weakness is that I've overanalyzed it. And I know she'll go 3, 4, 6 times in a row, continuing to throw scissors because she knows I won't budge off paper. Because I'm like, nope, next time she's throwing rock. Nope, next time. Rock, paper, scissors, go. She has like 80 LOL dolls because we keep rock, paper, scissors for it. She's like, hey, we'll be at Target. She's like, can I get an LOL? I'm like, no. She's like, rock, paper, scissors. I'm like, you're on. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Like, how did she beat me again?
Already in your head. In your head.
Already owned by this girl.
My 4-year-old does the same thing to me. So
is it a new thing? Is there some sort of YouTube thing? Because like my girl has been so involved with rock, paper, scissors the last couple of nights. And I'm like, or the last couple of weeks. And I'm like, that's cool. I don't know. I think about it too much. And then it was the thing with the Eagles. And so now it's all coming full circle. It's invaded my home life. It's invaded my work life. Too many things going on. I'm sorry. I feel like I always lead us. I always feel us to this dead end.
Take the long way home. Take the long way home every time.
I've been trying to keep eye contact with the camera, but then every time I glance down, I see the dead looks behind your eyes. Like, what is Frank talking about? Is he done yet? Like,
I love it. I love the stories, man. I love story times.
I know. Bob kind of hit us up here about the hype man thing. We definitely know that both Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith aren't going to hype up Tua because they hyped up Mac Jones. Tara, who do you got next?
All right. So next we have Jester. So he's kind of, little show off, maybe.
Jester, yeah, but he's the older guy, right? Like he's kind of a coach. He's kind of a little bit of an older guy who's got to come in. I think that he's more of the, like if Scarrett is Sean McVay, then Cliff Kingsbury is Jester. Like is good. Like he's part of the elite, but like already Cliff Kingsbury was making fun of Sean McVay and the beach house that the Rams have rented for their draft war room. And it's like, first of all, Cliff Kingsbury, you were in your Scottsdale estate last year looking like some sort of GQ cover model as you're sitting there drafting, which is what happens when you get DeAndre Hopkins for a 2nd-round pick. Like, you can show off all that you want. But Kingsbury's definitely the Jester, and Scarrett is Sean McVay, who's like the real mastermind, the guy who kind of owns him. Because, like, Jester always kind of cedes to Scarrett. So I think that that's kind of the dynamic that they would be working with there.
I like that. I think it's... I just want to real quick here. I think they missed an opportunity for a great call sign because I think actually Jester's real name, Ironside, would have been a better call sign than Jester.
100%. Like just go with the thing, like how they did in The Office, where they used their real names for some of the characters. Like they could have just used Ironside. Like here comes Ironside. Like yeah, that's a good call.
Let's move on to Goose. Laid back.
The number 2 guy.
Family man.
Who is? Which one? It feels like one of these receivers is kind of the Goose of the thing. Like the guy, like I'm trying to figure out which Alabama receiver kind of is in that vein of like, hey, like he's actually a bigger
Smith, maybe.
Yeah, like he's actually a bigger piece than people are giving him credit for. And he's not the number one guy, but he's just as integral. And we saw when he went down, like how devastating it was. So is it Smith or is it Waddle? Because it's got to be one of them. Wait,
I would think it's got to be Waddle because Smith's coming off the Heisman hype.
Yeah, that's true. Waddle. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Waddle's kind of that guy, kind of understated. You don't really understand it. Although the first time you ever see that movie and Meg Ryan shows up with the kid, you're like, well, Goose is dying. So this is, you know what I'm saying? Like you can just tell like, oh no. Cause like somebody has to die. Like in any movie like this, you're like, well, somebody's got to die. You're like, oh, it's the guy with the wife and kid. Of course they got to pull at the heartstrings. And, yeah, that's all I had on that. Yeah. So I kind of like Waddle there. Sorry.
I like Waddle there. What about Terrence Marshall maybe?
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Same thing. Second string, Jamar Chase. No one's talking about Terrace Marshall. Possible second round value. I like that, Tara. Who else you got?
Yeah, I love that. That's a great call.
That was way better.
That actually might be better. Tara. I think that's actually better than the one I came up with.
I try. I can give something every now and then. All right. Next person, Viper. So let's go. Who's that legend?
Yeah, so Viper. So Viper, again, going back to Ironside, like Viper, that's Tom Skerritt. That's the guy. That's the Sean McVay. If Jester is Cliff Kingsbury, Viper's Sean McVay. Skerritt is the actor who plays him. I only know Skerritt's name because Graham Barfield looks like his son. So we always used to make right. Think about
you are.
Think about Viper, and then think about what he looks like, and then think about what Graham Barfield looks like. You're like, that's his child. Actually, I was trying to get that over one time, is letting people like, oh, you know that's actually like, because Tom Skerritt's real last name is Barfield. Like, a lot of people don't know that, and that's Graham's father. No, it's not. But I wanted to try to make that something that became a legend in the fantasy community. That's the one thing that sucks about the internet, is it ruins a lot of like of these tall tales of like, although I don't know, you can go on Facebook. Some of my relatives believe enough stupid things that like, I guess you're on the internet. You could research this in a second, but you just decided that this meme was the truth and you're just going to post it here. Okay. But in any event, so I'm going to go, if I can go coaches, Viper will be McVay. Jester is Kingsbury.
That's great. I get all my facts from the internet, especially from Google. So when I'm dropping facts, they're legit.
I never question it. I never question it.
Speaking of facts, can we talk about who the best player in this class is? But is still going to get overshadowed by some schmuck like Maverick? Iceman was Top Gun, right?
Yeah, that's the 100th thing. That's Justin Fields, right? Like, everybody forgets, like, Kilmer, Iceman wins the competition. I had to have this conversation with somebody like recently. Like, you understand, Maverick does not win. Like, everybody remembers him, but he's not the Top Gun guy. He's shaking Iceman's hand at that reception, telling him congratulations and everything. And still, he gets to go to the Indian Ocean. Like, oh, a head case who should have won this contest but didn't? Let's get him out there against the Ruskies. Got to get him up in the air. Like, is the Army? It's not like when you watch Independence Day, I see why we had to turn to Russell Case. We didn't have a lot of available pilots. Anybody, as Adam Baldwin said, with flight experience would be useful. Like, you're putting up anybody. Like, they were probably taking guys who played like Flight Simulator or something. Like, all right, well, go fight these aliens. I would assume that the Navy at this point of the movie had enough or a roster of available pilots that they didn't have to send the head case who finished in third at Top Gun into the most hostile battlefield that we've faced during the Cold War since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Who is making the decisions here? But then I guess Maverick is, so that would mean Maverick is Trevor Lawrence.
That was the next one right there.
Yeah, so Iceman's Justin Fields. He's the low-key, like, because it makes perfect sense, too, because Justin Fields outplayed Trevor Lawrence in the bowl game and made him look silly. I mean, I know they don't go head-to-head, But the best player on that field who won that contest was Justin Fields. Trevor Lawrence is still Maverick, who just got married, who married his own Kelly McGillis, and now he's the presumed number 1 pick. He is Maverick. He's the guy who's on the movie poster. He's not on the slot machine in Las Vegas, but he's still the guy on the movie cover and the DVD cover. I'm assuming. I don't even know if Iceman's going to be in the new Top Gun that's coming out, but that's it.
Wow.
He's the guy.
Well, I'm pretty confident. Now. I've seen Val Kilmer lately. I don't even know if he could get into the cockpit anymore.
Oh my gosh, that's too mean.
Is that
how dare you?
Well, you know,
my bad.
They lose weight like that, so it's fine.
They're Hollywood actors. They all lose weight.
It really is funny how life can imitate fiction here. You just brought up Charlie getting married to Maverick, and it's weird because Trevor Lawrence just got married as well. Like that's just weird, man.
Out.
That's just absolutely.
That's the clip. We brought it all together. I mean, outside of the Gal Gadot thing I said earlier. Don't let my wife see that either. No,
here's the $1 million question right here. Which Top Gun character do you relate to the most? Who would Adam Rank be if he was in Top Gun?
Who did I relate to the most? Oh, I think maybe I am a little bit more Merlin than I want to be. Where I'm the guy doing, you're gonna do what? Merlin's kind of out like I'm not the lead guy. I'm a good number 2. Like you never want me to be the lead. Like I would be the best backup quarterback in the NFL. Like people would love me. I would be on the sideline. I look dope in a hat. I would have funny things to say. I would be photo bombing during the captain's photo or, things like that. And people would get to the point we want to see Rank play. And I would be down there being shut your mouth. I don't want to go out there. I want to sit here and get this huge contract and hold a clipboard and make sure that I'm standing behind the head coach enough to where, I'm FaceTime, I'm getting on the screen. I would tell you this, Dan Orlovsky has one of the best NFL careers I could ever think of. If you think of how Dan Orlovsky has gone, he does this thing. And if you look at it, think about Dan Orlovsky. He was okay. He got to the NFL. He has that one boneheaded move where he runs out of the back of the end zone. That's me picking the 49ers to go 3-13 the year they go to the Super Bowl. And then now he's on television where he's going to be forever because just talking about the game. And nobody cares about his career statistics or anything. He didn't get hurt. He didn't get hit. He didn't get roughed up. He's a handsome looking guy and he just gets to go out there and have a great life. And outside of Tom Brady, if you wanted me to pick a quarterback's life who I wanted to emulate, Dan Orlovsky would be number 2, right behind Tom Brady. And that's it. I would want nobody else's. I don't need a Super Bowl or whatever. Don't let me get hit. Give me the long time TV career. I'm happy with that. So I think that Merlin would be perfect for me. I'm out there. I'm in the jet that shoots down all the planes. I get to hug everybody like I did something. All I did was yell at Maverick, and I'm still getting all the glory. So that's pretty much my life and pretty much all I want. And there it is, dead air again. Everybody doesn't. Nobody knows how to follow that.
I'm getting so distracted. I'm just sitting here, just soaking it in.
So dumbfounded. Who is this idiot? Why is he? Why do people listen to him? Why did we have him on the show?
Why are these stories so amazing? I'm just getting entrapped. All right. What would your call sign be?
My call sign would be Joker. Wait, was that already taken?
Jester, I think was taken. Well, Joker, I think was taken too.
Joker.
I think he was one of those RIOs too.
Dang it!
You can have it. It's fine.
I'm gonna say Joker. I've got kind of a pointy chin you can't see right now because of the beard. But yeah, Joker, and I got a big smile. I don't have green hair though.
Yeah, we can't really do a whole lot about that. Let's be honest. All right, the green hair thing's just not happening.
Yeah,
you kind of mentioned that these rookies, they're thrown into everything here. They're going against the Ruskies or whoever they're battling over the Indian Ocean. Thinking back to your whole industry and everything, what is your Top Gun moment?
The first time that we ever I remember being on air because when we started doing Fantasy Live, it was the first time I was ever on live, like on a live broadcast. You know, we had done some on-demand videos where you can yell, "Oh, cut," like bust, like do something, and like, okay, let's check out, or anything like that. And you can kind of bounce and do anything, you know, hey, we're done. That Sunday morning, that first year, you know, I remember I was on the side set. We had Michelle Beisner was the host of the show. We had Fabs, we had Damashek on the main set. I'm on the side set. And the first time they throw to you and you see that red light and it's live, like there's no redoing it. I think I probably looked like Cougar. I was very relatable to Cougar at that moment because I'm pretty sure that I choked it. But it was really just one of those things that you're never prepared for it. You know, it just, you think that you can, you know, you're a broadcast journalist major. You've done some practice videos, you've done everything, but until you actually go out there and do it, it's sort of off-putting. And I remember the first time that I hosted, like was the host, like wasn't the side guy or anything like that, the number 2 banana, when I was hosting Madden NFL Live, and you got to do that live, and you're like, yeah, you're the host. So you're the one reading the prompter. And I remember because like MJD was sitting there and they're like, because before the show starts, they're like, oh, read through prompter real quick. You're like, hey, coming up on the show, we're going to give you all the tips and tricks to make you a Madden master. We're going to have Serious Mo joining the program. We're going to have Problem here. We're going to talk about the Madden Ultimate Team, you know, like going through all that stuff. And MJD is just watching and he's like, I'm so glad I don't have to do what you do. And I'm like, I'm usually the guy who's sitting at your chair and I don't have to worry about it. I just have to worry about somebody talking to me and then I just have to talk. I don't know what to do. So that was really it too, when the producer's like, okay, 4, 3, 2, go. And you're like, hey, everybody, welcome to Madden NFL Live. So that was it. Both of those moments.
Awesome. Getting away from the Top Gun theme now, what's some advice you can give to those of us trying to make it in this industry?
Well, I think that the most simplest thing that you can do is just have perseverance. And I know there was a topic of conversation a couple of months ago where we were talking about unpaid internships and everything like that. And people were upset. I know that because I was talking about, like, I personally did unpaid internships and people were getting upset with me, which is, I understand. It's one of those things, like, you understand, like, I don't like the practice of it. Like, I agree. Like, everybody should get paid for their labor. Like, I agree with that. Like, I also feel too, like, I don't like the idea of tipping. Like, and let me explain this. Like, the idea of tipping, that a restaurant is like, you should be paying your employees. Why do I have to pay your employees? You know what I'm saying? Like, they should make a livable wage. They should get $15 an hour or whatever it is and not have to worry about some soccer mom having a good day to leave them enough money to survive. Their employer should be taking care of that. At the same time, like, I always overtip. Like, I always make sure I leave 20%, sometimes 25. I worked in the service industry. I know how much that job sucks. So I always want to take care of them. But I'm like, I wish they had some sort of, like, safety net that was different than me and the whims of the customers. But that all being said, so I understand. So I don't like the practice of any of, like, unpaid internships, but I do recommend doing everything that you can. And one of the good things too, though, we don't necessarily, because I know that there was a shoe company that made me work for free. I won't name who they are. But I will say, you know, the one cool thing is, like, doing shows like this, where you have the ability to create the show that you want to create. You do your schedule and you do your thing. And this affords you the opportunity to go out there and build an audience and to grow and to get your voice out there and be heard. And it's one of those things, like, I notice it, like, we notice it. Like, my bosses notice, we know who's putting in work and doing stuff like that. And it's pretty cool, you know? And I think that the number one key is just being willing to do it. And I understand that we all have real world situations. Like, we have families, we've got obligations, we got to pay rent and all that stuff. But anytime that you can get an opportunity to get in front of a microphone or to get behind, you know, get out there on social media, there's so many platforms. You know, I was thinking about my friend Sammy today, how well she's been doing. And she started on TikTok and she's out there crushing it. Like, it's it's so inspirational. Just finding a niche and finding a platform, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on Instagram or whatever. I'm watching people do it, and it is great to see. And eventually, you know, people like me are like, we already look and like, I look at some Instagram accounts or some other people, like look at what they're doing and I get inspired by it. And, you know, it's available to you. And, you know, I know people make fun of influencers and things like that, but like, that's how this is going to eventually work. Like these companies are going to be like, I don't need to go and work with the MLB. I can go work with these people who are directly going to our consumers and work with them that way. So as long as you have the ability, and I understand it's tough to always work around schedules and everything because we do need to make money, but anytime that you can be out there, not necessarily promoting yourself, but engaging with people, I would suggest that you do it. And that's my number one key. And that's the number one thing that will help you out down the line.
Great advice.
So before we let you go here, just where are you at nowadays? Because you're obviously NFL Network, but you got some other little side projects and other collaborations you're working on as well.
There's tons. Yeah. So James Coe and I are doing a show called Tackling Dummies. That's on his YouTube page. I do my own YouTube page. I'm trying at some point. I keep threatening to get on TikTok, but I have a friend who's a social media master, and she's like, when you do TikTok, you got to commit. Your first one's got to be really good. So I'm so afraid that my first one's not going to be good enough that I'm like, I'm too worried. I'm too scared to try it. But yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. Instagram's kind of where I'm doing a lot of stuff too, or YouTube. I think YouTube, either one of those. That's why I put Adam Rank on IG right there, so people find me. And I go a lot of direct to consumer myself because I see, you know, because it's fun. Like I like hanging. I love doing these shows. I love hanging out with people. I love seeing like some of the familiar names that come onto these, like obviously Bobby Gilchrist. Goat District, like all I see them on other shows too, like hanging out. So it's a fun community. Like fantasy especially is like such a fun community. I know like there's some haters or anything like that, but overall it's a lot of fun and it's always good to interact with people and hang out.
Absolutely. That's the best part of the community is those relationships that you're building with people all the way through. I got some group chats that we have a blast in. 90% of the group chat is not football related at all. It's fantastic. Fantasy football, but it's good. It's like that home league. You know what I mean? That league of records, like getting that group of guys together or going back on your 20-year high school reunion. You know, you're all professionals and whatnot, but you get in that group or that chat group, you go right back to high school, no matter what.
100%. Yeah.
Never fails. So again, Rank, you've joined us. This is, I think, the second time you've come on the show. I know we got you coming up again here with James. Getting that scheduled. We got a fantastic show planned for that one. You're going to want to make sure you see that if you're tuning in right now. Sure. For Major, for Tara, for myself, and of course for Adam Rank, who always chooses paper and is the Charlie Whitehurst, aka Clipboard Jesus of Top Gun. Adam Rank, thanks for joining us, and we're gone.
Thank you so much for having me.